Welcome to the Belonging Advantage podcast, where leadership, culture, and belonging intersect. I'm your host, Dr. Patricia Robinson, and together we'll explore the power of belonging in transforming teams, communities, and lives. Whether you're leading a team, a family, or yourself, this podcast is your guide to creating environments where everyone feels valued and empowered to contribute authentically. Let's dive into today's conversation. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Belonging Advantage podcast. We have been studying these different pillars of the belonging leadership model, and today we're going to cover pillar number 5 in this episode, and that pillar is culture. Now, culture is not built in your mission statements, in your policies and procedures, but rather in the moments, right? The moments we experience in community, the moments in where you are corrected or how your ideas are received, or importantly, how conflict is handled, right? How, when you make a mistake, how is that treated? And how is silence interpreted? That's what determines culture. It's not about what you say you value. It's about what people consistently experience. So in this episode, we're going to talk about that final pillar, that pillar of culture. And it's the final episode in the foundational series on the belonging leadership model. We've talked about character, courage, conviction, and now it's all about culture. But let's zoom out for just a quick moment. Let's take a look at what we have already covered, right? We talked that character builds trust. Pillar 1, character. It builds trust. It's important that those in your organization, those in your family, those in whatever environment you are can trust you, that you are trustworthy, right? Pillar 2 was courage. Courage creates honesty. You're willing to do what needs to be done. You're willing to take that courage to speak up or to do a certain thing in all honesty. It creates that honesty. We talked about conviction. Conviction creates consistency, right? When you're under pressure, are you going to respond the same way you have consistently, or are you going to flip the script, right? So character builds trust, courage creates honesty, conviction creates consistency. And culture is what people experience because of those 3. Culture is the visible expression of leadership values. It's what they see. Think of it as if character is the root, then the conviction, culture is the fruit, right? So the character, courage, conviction, those all come together to shape the culture. Belonging is shaped by what that fruit tastes like. So let me say that again. If character is the root, culture is the fruit. What are people tasting having come into your presence? What are they tasting having come into your organization? What is your family members tasting, right? Belonging is shaped by what that fruit tastes like, what that culture is bringing forth, right? So throughout this series, I've anchored each of these pillars, anchored this podcast in this saying, sense of belonging is crucial and powerful. It is at the center of living a meaningful and engaging life. You see, belonging isn't theoretical. It's rather experiential, and culture determines the experience. Research on psychological safety consistently shows that people thrive in environments where they can speak up, admit mistakes, they can ask questions, they can offer ideas without fear of embarrassment or retaliation. That isn't personality driven. It's culture driven. It's driven by the fruit of that organization. Culture is shaped intentionally or unintentionally. It's shaped, and it's shaped by leadership behavior. It's shaped by the different things that a leadership does and does not do. So when we define or when we think about culture, we're thinking about what is rewarded, what is ignored, what is corrected, what is repeated, what is tolerated. All of those things gives the essence of what culture is. Culture is not what you see framed on a wall. It's the unwritten rules that people learn by watching. Okay, for example, if someone is interrupted and no one corrects it, the culture learns interruption is acceptable. If someone makes a mistake and is humiliated publicly, the culture learns hide your errors. If someone speaks honestly and is respected, even in a disagreement, the culture learns honesty is safe. You see, it's those micro moments that happens rather quickly that shapes culture. Let me give you a simple workplace example, and we all have these examples about culture and how it's shaped, right? So if you're in a meeting and a team member begins sharing an idea and someone just interrupts who is in a higher level, interrupts that person, it wasn't habitual. It wasn't malicious, rather, but it was habitual. It becomes a part of that, right? But if the leader just pauses and says calmly, let's let her finish, him or her finish her thought. That's it. There's no lecture, no embarrassment, just redirecting what's happening in that scenario. Because if it's not redirected, it becomes the norm. It becomes what is accepted and what will be followed. Remember that leaders in the home or in organizations, they set the tone. And as a leader, you want to make sure you are setting the right tone. You see, that one small action of having of redirecting communicated a lot. It communicated that voice matters. Every person's voice matters. It communicates that your position, your hierarchy doesn't override dignity. And it communicated that everyone's ideas deserves a space, deserves to be heard. And when that happens, no raising a voice, no dramatic scene, just calmly redirecting, the energy is shifted. Others who may have been sitting by quietly now begin to speak more freely. And in those moments, belonging is increased. You see, the culture changed, not through a policy, but through a moment. And it's those moments that define culture. So imagine you're sitting with your family and one person is being vulnerable. They're sharing some information, some private information. And instead of dismissing it or joking it away, someone says, thank you for sharing. Tell me more. This person now feels emotionally safe. They feel validated and they know their presence is being accepted, acknowledged, right? You want environments to become where people feel safer to be real, not to be fake, not to be partial of who they are and only disclose certain things, but to be real. It's a relational thing. And anywhere, any place where you have human beings gathering, some type of culture is going to exist. Is it going to be a good tasting, fruitful culture or a culture that leaves a bad taste in your mouth? When you're shaping culture, there are different signs, different signals that happens every day. Every day we are shaping belonging. Every day. You may not realize it, but every day in your interactions throughout the day, it could be an interaction for 30 seconds. Belonging is being shaped. It triggers, it signals who gets listened to. It signals who gets corrected, who gets celebrated, who gets overlooked. Who gets second chances? Who gets silence? Those are all happening every single day that we are in the midst of other people. People don't experience your intention. They experience your consistency. You have to remain consistent to who you are. If you say you value respect, but allow sarcasm, the culture is going to follow that behavior, not your value statement. If you say you value growth in a person, but every time they make a mistake, they get punished, the culture is going to follow that. They're going to follow that reaction, not what you have been saying you aspire them to be. They're going to follow how you act, how you respond, how you relate to different things that happen. Belonging grows where behavior aligns with values, when what you are saying, what you are doing aligns to your values. So if we're thinking about this practically, we've been going through all these pillars. Now let's think about this practically, right? If you want to protect voice, invite quieter voices intentionally and interrupt interruptions. If you have individuals who have not spoken up in a meeting or in your company in a long time or in your family, invite them to speak, invite them to say something, invite them to share. And if individuals are interrupting other people from talking, interrupt their interruption, right? So you want to protect the voices of those in your organizations and in your families. You also want to normalize learning. The only way you learn is by making mistakes. You have to, respond to mistakes with a level of curiosity before correction, right? Before blasting them for doing something wrong. Have that curiosity. Make that a learning moment for yourself, for them, and for others around. It's important also that leaders, that they repair and address any harm quickly, right? You want to make sure that your silence doesn't communicate approval. A lot of people may abstain, may not voice their opinion on certain things. Well, then you're seeing that's being viewed as an approval or as an acceptance of that behavior. So you want to make sure that you gently, respectfully address any harm in a quick fashion. And you want to be as clear as possible to bring about clarity as quickly as possible as well. Clarity builds safety. If you are operating in a large scale of ambiguity, that's going to create anxiety in people. People need to know and understand with clarity what's expected, what direction we are going as an organization or as a family. So clarifying those expectations as a leader is going to be crucial for you. You also want to make sure you are modeling what you expect. People see what you say before they hear what you say. You can't demand a certain behavior, certain expectations that you don't demonstrate. I said earlier that leaders set the tone. So leaders are in the front. They are in the front, they're in the middle, and they're in the back because they are setting the tone throughout the entire organization. And you have to model the behavior you expect. You can't expect one thing, but yet still you are doing another. It's those small, repeated actions that create cultural patterns. And those patterns could be good or bad. But practically, as a leader, you want to make sure you are doing these things, right? That you are protecting the voice of those that you lead, that you are normalizing making mistakes, making it a learning opportunity, that you are repairing or addressing any harm as quickly as possible, not remaining silent. You want to make sure that you are clarifying your expectations. Clarity is the best way to go. It builds that safety that people need, and then model what you accept, what you expect behavioral patterns to be if you're trying to change the culture or build the culture in your organization or in your family. So as we think about different types of how we can build culture in our organizations, I'm all about reflecting and certain reflection questions, right? Or prompts that we can use, right? And so when you're thinking about culture, you want to think about how or what behaviors are you consistently tolerating in your environment? What behaviors are you consistently tolerating? Is that people being interrupted? Is it people being shamed or humiliated? There are many different behaviors. Is it people being dismissive? Is it people being ostracized? All of those are behaviors that reflect a negative culture. So as a leader, what behaviors are you consistently tolerating in your environment? Now, you may say, well, I'm not the CEO or the president or in those ranks. but you still have a voice and you are still a leader and you are still being observed by other people. And those small moments is what make and build culture, right? So as you begin to sow seeds of good culture building, then it begins to replicate itself. Here's another question. What do people learn about belonging by watching how I respond? Ties right into what I just said. Doesn't matter what level you are. It doesn't matter who you are in the family or in your organization. People are watching how you respond. And here's a good one. If you allowed someone to observe your leadership for a week, what would they say that you truly value? Because we all say we value certain things, but our actions may speak otherwise. So it becomes important. And sometimes we can't see it ourselves. Sometimes we have blinders on when it comes to ourselves. So it's always good to ask other leaders or those you actually lead to give you feedback. And don't look at it as a negative. Again, we're all about growing and learning no matter what level you are. Just because you're a high leader doesn't mean that you've learned everything. Doesn't mean you've arrived. It means we all are constantly learning. We have to remember that we are constantly learning. We're constantly achieving. So having someone else observe you and then give you feedback requires you to be humble enough to receive that feedback and not think that because you are a leader that you're above being evaluated. The opposite of that is what is real. You should welcome people observing you as a leader and giving you feedback because, again, that is how you grow. That is how you begin to really lean into leadership, really lean into areas that you may need some growing in. And that's not negative to have areas you need to grow in. It reveals that you are humble, that you are willing to take corrective, positive feedback, constructive feedback, and be able to build on that. And that's what's important. That as leaders, we are growing, we are evolving, we are understanding who we are, but more importantly, who we are leading and what they need in this season in their lives. And that is to belong. Everyone deserves to belong, to feel safe in their environment, to feel safe to be who they are, to feel safe to offer suggestions, to let their voice be heard, to feel safe to make a mistake. And that's our jobs as leaders to create that space. It's important we create that space for individuals to feel as they belong. So as we get ready to close this foundational series, let's bring it all together. I started the series by saying that belonging is not soft. Rather, it is strategic, it is human, and it is necessary. It is built through the choices that we as leaders make. I go back to my anchoring statement where I say that sense of belonging is crucial and powerful. It is at the center of living a meaningful and engaging life. When we operate in character, we're building trust. When we operate in courage, we're building honesty. When we operate in conviction, we're building consistency. And culture becomes the outcome of all of that. But it's not going to happen if you don't put in the work for it. Building belonging does not happen accidentally. It requires work. It's shaped by the intention, being intentional in our everyday actions, in our everyday opportunities we have to influence others. We have to shape it intentionally. We have to shape belonging intentionally. It's not gonna, we can't just snap our fingers and we're gonna have this perfect culture. We're gonna have this awesome culture. No, that takes work. That takes strategy. That takes putting in the work that requires it to be done. And that's all through the first three pillars: character, courage, and conviction. Because as a leader, we have to go through those things to get to the culture that we so desire. So now, if you walk through these 5 episodes with me, you now have the foundation of the belonging leadership model. And this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning. There is more to come because I really believe that leadership, taking on those 4 pillars, will be able to shift and change and transform the lives of those that are in their influence, that are under their influence, that they work with on a daily basis, in their families, in different organizations. We as leaders have to make the change. We can't settle for the status quo. We have to make the change, rise above to be better than we are right now. We have to shape that belonging so that individuals are able to give us more. They're able to contribute more. They're able to be who they were designed to be. Their skills and their talents are able to shine forth because they have this safety. They know that they are safe when they are around you. They know that they are safe in that organization, in that home, because you are building that culture of belonging. I've enjoyed just laying the foundation of belonging leadership model. And again, as I said, this is just the beginning. So I encourage you to stay tuned. I encourage you to listen to the other podcast episodes, that the previous ones and the ones that are forthcoming, because we have some great things in store for you. So I want to thank you for listening to the Belonging Advantage, where leadership, culture, and belonging meet. Until next time. Thank you for joining us on the Belonging Advantage podcast. Remember, belonging is not just a concept. It's a powerful force that shapes our lives and communities. If you found value in today's episode, please subscribe, share, and leave a review. Let's continue to build spaces where everyone can thrive. Until next time, take care and keep fostering belonging in your world.